Hello and welcome to the Tarkus Zone. Thank you for joining me. Today I go with Ego, and this is my follow-up video to the last video I did, which was about a month ago, where I said the batteries were completely dead and that the charger wasn't charging them, and I thought the charger had gone bad. As soon as I called Ego, told them what tractor I had, the guy said, "You can stop there. I'm going to explain to you what happened." I didn't really have to give him the details. They either are following my channel or he just knew what to say to me. He said, "We have a problem with the T6 draining the batteries. And it usually happens if you lose power." But I told him that I hadn't lost power at all and that it had been plugged in. It was all connected. The batteries were doing their thing charging because I had just got done doing my, mowing. And he's like, "Well, we don't really know why it's doing it, but what happens," I'm going to explain it to you folks, is a tractor will go into some sort of mode where it won't receive the charge from here, and it will start draining the batteries as though the tractor's on. Then what happens is the batteries go below a threshold where they go below that threshold and the charger will no longer see them or view them. So the charger doesn't know to charge them because they're not seeing the batteries in the system because they're below this minimum charge, and the tractor has brought them below that and it's not supposed to. And that's what the Ego rep was saying. He said, "Mr. Emmons, we know this is a problem. This is how we're going to fix it." So he gives me the instructions on how to fix it. So his first instruction was pull all the batteries out, take them one at a time. You need to remove this. Then you put the batteries in one at a time and you let them sit on this charger for 2 hours. What happens is it goes through some sort of discharge mode where then the battery charging system will see it after 2 hours. After 2 hours, what you do is then you push the green button on the battery, and if the light blinks, then the battery's still good. And then at that point, the charger will continuously charge it until it's full. The Ego rep had told me that 90% of the time, the batteries, once they go below this, they're done for. And he's like, "Yeah, we'll replace every single one of them, Mr. Emmons. But first, you got to do the 2-hour song and dance and then show us a video of the button not lighting up after the 2 hours." So what I did is I put the first battery on for 2 hours. 2 hours later, I pushed the green button. Let me just go to the tractor here so you know what I'm talking about. I pushed this green button and the first light blinked twice. I was like, okay, well, that one's not dead. Then what I did is I put it back, I left it in here and it started charging it. I was like, okay, well, that's one battery, good. So I gave it another hour, and obviously the battery wasn't fully charged, but I pulled it out of the hub, stuck it back here, put the next battery in. Then I rinsed and repeated that effort. What happened was, out of all the batteries, every single one of them came back except for this one. And when I contacted Ego, they're like, "Wow, we're surprised that they all came back," because normally they don't. Once the tractor has squirreled them down to below that threshold, that 2-hour thing is like a Hail Mary kind of thing. But I was able to get these to come back. This one I could not. So I did my little video for them saying, "Look, guys, 2 hours, what's going on here?" And they're like, "Well, we'll replace that, Mr. Emmons," like we said. So within 6 days, they replaced this battery. And you'll see that it's totally charged. Now, the dead one is in my garage because I got to recycle it somehow. And that one's completely dead. So out of all of them, I only had one that was seriously damaged because of the tractor, and they replaced it without a problem. I actually still got to send them the serial number on this one, because this one has a serial. Well, I'm on the wrong side. Yeah, this one has a serial number. I have to actually get it in their warranty system. Now, follow up 3 days later, the tractor does the exact same thing again. It drains all the batteries. I was like, "You got to be kidding me." I just got done mowing. I plugged the battery charger in. The system was charging. I went in the house. Next day I came out, noticed that the charger wasn't doing anything. There was no light. All the batteries were dead again, even the new one. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So what I did was I pulled one battery out, I seated it for the 2 hours, and then after 2 hours, the light came back. You know what I did at that point? I took that barely charged battery, stuck it back in the tractor, seated all these again, and guess what happened? Is a battery charger could recognize that one battery. It's like, oh, I see a battery, I should charge that battery. And by doing so, it started recharging the entire bank. So I didn't have to stick these guys in for the 2 hours, because as long as you've got one minimum battery that's above that threshold, the charger will see that battery and say, oh, I've got other things that I got to charge. And what I did is I saved myself 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 hours of seating these things, right? To see if they would work. Whereas once I got this one going, and the charger saw it, it was able to charge them all at once. So I didn't have to run it through that 2 hour mark. Right now, they're completely charged. Completely charged. And what I've done now is when I plug it in and charge it, and I go in the house, I come out a few hours later to check on its progress, to make sure that they're charging correctly. Once they get 100% charge, I unseat them. So they're no longer seated in the tractor. None of these are in the tractor, because I can't have it just keep on discharging them like that. So hopefully Ego has a fix for this problem, but I just keep them unseated. Now, what the pain in the keister is now all winter, I'm going to have to check these. I'm going to bring them in the house, because I don't want these batteries to freeze. So all these batteries will be in my house in a warm, dry location. And I'm just going to have to keep an eye on them through the winter, because if they go below that threshold, then it's a pain in the butt, right? So I got to make sure that I don't want to continuously charge them all winter. So I just want to make sure that when I check them, maybe 2 months after being in the basement, that they still have a charge, so I don't have to go through the 2 hour nonsense with them. But that's it, folks. If it goes below that threshold, Ego looks at it as a loss. So like, yeah, 90% of the time those don't come back. And if they do, bonus. But they did replace the battery without any issues. Within 6 days, they had a new battery in my tractor. So overall, you're probably asking yourself, Tarkus, would you buy one of these again? And the serious answer is no. Because if I compare what I had to do with this tractor over the first summer I owned it, out of the 15 years I owned my John Deere, I might have had 2 or 3 days where I was concerned that it wouldn't work. All summer long, I spent feeling that way with this tractor. So if you think battery operating technology is for you, then all for it, go for it. But for me, I have to balance it between the gas tractor I owned and the 15 years of really pleasure of running it to a whole one summer of owning this thing and worrying every day that I can't mow my lawn. I mean, that's it, folks. It will mow. It will do everything the gas one will do, but it won't give you that peace of mind. Because that's what I was hoping for when I bought this, was peace of mind. That's what I was paying $4,000 for, was I have a tractor that I can power all the time. I got solar panels, I got battery backups. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock and roll as long as this thing's charged. But so many times this summer, this system was not working correctly. There was a problem with the tractor. There was a problem with the batteries, a problem with this, a problem with that. It's a problem product. And so if you ask me, hands out, Tarkus, would you recommend buying this? I would say hell no. And I'd be honest with you. If someone gave me an offer today on this, I would have it out of my yard and I'd be back into a gas mower, because I've only owned this a year and it's a pain in the butt. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. And this has been the Tarkus Zone.